Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the globe, such as our incredible guest today, Shiraz Baboo, with an incredible, powerful name like that. You can never go wrong. And I have to tell you, Shiraz is the creator of Energetic Magic. He's an author, a speaker, a sought after expert in energy and how to keep your energy focused and on point and positive. So, today we are going to be talking about a secret you need to know, and that is why you secretly don't want success. And we're going to be getting into that and why that is so. So, you all share this as we're watching. Let people know, tag people who need this. And let's get started. Welcome to the show, Shiraz.
Thank you, Dr. Barnsley. So happy to be here.
I'm thrilled you are as well. And, I appreciate your patience as we had incredibly big storms here earlier. So we're getting started just a little bit later. And I know those of you who've been waiting with bated breath, you're here and can't are just wanting the secret. You want the secret. But first, let me ask you this, Shiraz. Tell us, how did you get interested in energetic magic? What was the event or the
Hmm.
situation that made you so interested in this?
So I guess with energetic magic, it was more of a research thing. But the thing that got me on this path was the fact that I got arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, at the age
Mhm.
of 22. And it was in every single joint in my body, like no exceptions. There would be nights I'd
Mm,
sip my dinner through a straw because my jaw was so swollen and painful.
mm,
Um, every knuckle, every joint. So there'd be times where I'd just be lying in bed in pain for days at a time, and movement was rough. I tried everything to get out of it. I tried medication, diet, supplements. I tried yoga,
mm,
meditation, and nothing worked, or it would work for just a little while, and then it would just stop working
mhm,
again. So it was something I just sort of got used to. Tried to get on with my life. I had to change my
mhm,
career. Went into computers because I could sit down and do work with computers. And I kind of just sort of figured this is what my life is going to be like, until one time I was talking to my dad, and I'm like, is there anything that we haven't tried? Right? Something new, something that's just come on. And he said, there's actually a program called combined therapy I just heard about. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And he goes, I'm not sure, but they've had success with multiple illnesses. And I'm like, multiple illnesses? He's like, yeah, they've helped people like cure cancer and diabetes. And I'm like looking at him going, wait, what? Like, why
yeah.
isn't this what world renowned? Why isn't this like, what's going on here? So he said, I don't know. This is something that's it's a center that's in India that they do this from. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go over to India. I'm going to go into this program, see what happens. And so I get on a flight to India, and I go to this program, and it's India. So I'm thinking it's going to be some sort of energy healing, maybe
Mm,
Reiki kind of thing. We're going to heal your body. And no, the guy just sits me down and talks to me for a few weeks. And I don't know what's going on. It's like I'm being with a psychiatrist, uh, except he's not actually trying to solve anything. He just keeps asking me questions about my life. I don't see where this is going. Like, what are we going to get out of this? And so finally, he looks at me and he goes, well, Shiraz, you believe you're responsible for everyone in your life. I'm like,
mm,
no, I don't. Right? Like, that's crazy. I'm a responsible guy. I'm the designated driver. I want to make sure my friends are taken okay. Okay, I look out for my family, but I'm not responsible for everyone. Right?
mhm.
That's ridiculous. And he goes, I know you don't think you that's
Mm,
true.
my
However, from
goodness.
everything you've told me through your life's history, you've created a belief that you need to be responsible for everyone. And I'm like, okay, let's just say that's true for the sake of argument. What's that got to do with arthritis? There's no connection there. He goes, oh no, no. You don't want to be responsible for everyone. I'm like, obviously. And if you're lying in bed in pain, you don't have to be responsible for anyone. Right. If they
Mm,
if they see you struggling to get through the day, they're not going to ask you to take care of them. Your
yeah.
arthritis isn't your problem, it's your solution.
Mm. Whoa.
Yeah.
Now, Shiraz, okay, that's so powerful. And it's what I call when I'm teaching people in Reiki, the Reiki method of natural healing, I call it the payoff
Mhm.
for the dis-ease,
Yeah.
right? What's the payoff there? Because if you are sick in bed, as you point out with the rheumatoid arthritis or cancer, whatever it is, and you are incapacitated, basically you get to do what? You get off the hook
Yep.
for whatever thing that you don't want to do. In this case, be responsible for others. I love it. We have a Gregory Hall. You get a shout out, Gregory. Thanks. Gregory said, mic drop. Absolutely. That's amazing, Shiraz. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was it. And when I started to research, well, first, before I go into that, when he told me that that's the problem, I said, okay, well, first of all, that's insane. Like, who would do that to themselves? And he said that, but that's what most illnesses are. They're solutions to problems people aren't looking at. And then I said, well, if that's actually what's going on, then all I have to do is say I'm not going to be responsible for anyone but me, and I shouldn't have arthritis anymore. Like I'm not actually believing it as I'm saying it. I'm just going the logical trail, right? And he looks at me, he goes, yeah. What? He goes, no, if you actually believe it deep down that you don't need to be responsible for anyone, then you don't need the arthritis anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be responsible for anyone but me. And you know what happened in that moment?
What happened?
Nothing. So, however, I woke up the next morning and there was no pain. There was no inflammation. I had more mobility. I could even breathe better. I was like, I'm freaking out because it's been 18 years of me trying this and this and this and this. And then this guy says, stop being responsible. And all of a sudden the arthritis is gone.
Mm. So you had to basically look at what it was the solution to and
Yeah.
resolve that you would let that belief go because it wasn't serving you.
Yeah.
Powerful. And this is called, again, what's the name of it? It's called,
It was called combined therapy. And this was the funny thing is the
okay.
program doesn't exist anymore. The three guys that created it cured a bunch of people, and then they got called to do other things across the world and they split up and went off to do other things. And I'm like, why didn't you train up a team like before you left?
They didn't need to. They, they didn't feel guilty. They were like, yeah, we feel good, so we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
But I love that because your work has been inspired by this. And so
Yes.
we could consider your work as like an unfolding at some level of this, right?
Yes. Yeah. As I looked into this, there are two big things I found out. Number one, this isn't just about illness. This is about everything. This is
Mhm.
why you make the money you make. This is your level of visibility. This is why you have specific relationships. Every consistent problem in your life is the solution to an emotional problem you're not looking at.
Wow. Okay, I got to get this into the chat. Every consistent problem you're having in your life, I can't type and talk. You're having
Is the
in your life
solution?
is a solution to an emotional issue you're not looking at. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Emotional.
that's the other half that I found out later because I thought the problem was I have to make sure I have to stop being responsible for everyone. But it wasn't actually the responsible for everyone that was the problem. It was
Mhm.
I felt guilty when I couldn't help people when I'm responsible for them. So your mind is trying to avoid emotional distress. And the two biggest ones it tries to avoid are guilt and shame.
Mm, I
So,
believe it.
yeah. So when you
Interesting
look
that
at
I
it,
said they didn't feel guilty, right?
yes, exactly. You're bang
They didn't
on.
feel guilty. They're like,
Yeah.
we feel fine. We're going to go on to our other stuff. We don't care. Oh, I love this. And it's almost like Oh, yeah, y'all can translate my typing there. I'm sure you all will get it. I don't feel guilty about my typing, and I don't feel shame about it either, right?
Good.
Your mind tries to avoid guilt and shame. Let's think about it, because guilt is almost like accepting what someone else projects onto it, but
Mhm.
shame is like that inner feeling of, ooh, I'm bad because somebody told me I'm bad. You know what I mean? It's like an
Yep.
inner, whereas the guilt is sort of projected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's it.
You know,
And
but
and there's
they're
other
kind of
emotions.
parts of the same coin in a way, two sides.
Yeah, they're two of the lowest frequency emotions that you can have.
Hmm.
And your mind will
Yeah.
try to avoid other emotions too, but those are the ones that govern almost everything that people are up against.
Hmm. Mm. So powerful. And I'm just thinking that so many things that happen in our world, so many aberration, so to speak, people who are serial killers. I don't know why, but I've been watching some of the stuff with that guy down in Florida, right? Wade Miller, I think his name is, and he strangled two women, and the guy's
Okay.
nuts, right?
Yep.
But these sorts of things, they have to be, I believe it's a kind of working out on a cultural level of what everyone is creating. And so there's some kind of whatever that everyone's creating. And this person just happens to tap into that and express it. So
Mhm.
when we can, any of us, I believe that when any of us can start clearing up our own side of the street and in guilt and shame and whatever else we have, that it can help. It can help create peace on the planet, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Hmm.
And when you start to apply this to success, to
Mm.
wealth, the secrets start to come out. So, for instance, a lot of people come to me and they're like, I would like to make a lot more money. And ultimately they don't. I would like to have a lot more success. And ultimately they don't.
Yeah.
And it's funny because once we start talking about it, it's things like, okay, well, what would happen if you made an extra $100,000 a year? Oh my God, it'd be great. I can clear off all my debt. I'll be able to take care of my family. I could travel. It'll be amazing. Right?
Mhm.
And they're like, yeah, okay, what else? I'm like, what do you mean, what else? Well, let's just go into it. And eventually things start to come up. It's like, okay, well, you're going to have a lot of money. How are people going to react to that? And I said, oh, well, some people are going to get jealous. I'm like, huh, are you okay with them being jealous? And I said, no, I don't want people to be jealous of my wealth.
Mm.
I mean, then they might not like me or they might want some of my money. Or I'm like, oh, so that's emotional distress. So
Mhm.
you don't actually want that because then you don't want those emotions to show up. So you don't want the money. What? So, what if you have lots of money and people saying, "Can you give to my charity? Can you invest in my business?" Or your family's like, "You just got to take care of everyone now because you make the most." How does that make you feel? Oh, I don't want that. Okay, then you don't want the money. And it's not that
Mm.
you need to want all that. You just have to have no emotional reaction. You want my money? No. As opposed to, oh man, it's my family. It's and they're going to try and guilt me. I don't want to have to go through that. Right?
Wow. So we got to take the emotional charge off of it.
Yes.
The emotional charge, because we both know that what we focus on increases,
Mhm.
and this is why, when I think this is why in our lives sometimes we get the proverbial shit storm, and one thing happens and then we say, oh, that's such a bad thing, why'd that happen? And then something else comes along, oh, that's so bad, and then there's a third and a fourth. Well, why? Because we're focusing on
Yes.
the shit storm rather than the positive that could come out of it. Yeah, really powerful. So when you work with people, Shiraz, doing this work, how many sessions does it take to get somebody into a place where they could, for example, just be okay making billions of dollars with no emotional charge that's negative?
It depends on the person.
Mm.
Right. So, for instance, I had a client that uh, we worked for a year and saw tiny little increments in the amount of
Mm-hmm.
success she had. And she eventually said, "Look, it's been a year, and yes, there's been improvements, but nothing significant. When is the big change going to come?"
Mm.
All right. And I said, "Well, you don't want the big change." She's like, "Of course I want the big change." I said, "No, because every time I bring up something that could cause big change in your life, you change the subject or you just get into this whole denial. No, that's not a problem. I'm fine there. And she's like, what? So yeah, every single time that we've done this over the year. And she goes, well, I want big change. And I'm like, are you serious? Because if we do this, there's no going back. And she's like, what does that mean? I'm just telling you. There are certain things that have to happen for you to have the change you want. And if you're
Mhm.
full on in this, then there's no going back. She's like, I am ready for big change. I said, okay. So we shifted a couple more beliefs in her. And then she called me a week later. And can I swear on this show?
Yeah, you can swear.
Because I just want to quote verbatim.
Yes. Heck yeah. That's
she,
bold
she,
badass business. Are you kidding?
she calls me up. She goes, what the fuck did you do to me? Right?
Yeah.
So I said, oh, is something happening? And I was pretty sure what was happening. And she said, okay, in the last week, I've been fired from my job. I've, I've broken up with my boyfriend and I'm being
Mm.
evicted from my apartment in a week. Right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, did you like your job? She goes, no, I hated my job. You know that. I kept complaining. Well, that's not a problem now, is it? Right. And what about your apartment? She goes, well, the landlord wasn't fixing things. It was just annoying. The place was, well, now you don't have to worry about that. She goes, but I don't have a place to live. I know, but you don't have to worry about the apartment that you hated. I said,
Yeah.
what about the boyfriend? Well, we were always fighting. Well, that's gone too. She goes, what am I supposed to do? Well, that's what we have to figure out moving forward. And she's just like, what is happening? But sometimes you have to let go of the things that are in your life that even though they suck, you think they're necessary. You need them, that they have to be there. And when you're ready energetically to move on, it's either going to come from your choice or life is going to force you into it. That's basically the two
Yes.
choices.
Yes.
So that's it. So,
Absolutely.
yep. Fast forward 5 years, she is making 6 times the amount of money she was making when we first started working together. She was at about $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She has a new apartment. That's amazing. Her business, she works in Ontario. Her business was ranked number 8 for therapeutic practices. She actually started a new company on her own, hired people. She's got like people that do acupuncture and chiropractors and massage therapists, and like she's running this thing now.
Love
Right?
that.
And she was number 8 in Ontario, and she won the Best Business Award in Toronto 2 years running, and takes exotic vacations, and because she let all that go. Well, she had to let that go. And that's the thing, like people hold on so tightly that it can take a while to bust through it with the belief shifts. Now, juxtapose to one of my current clients, she's in my private coaching program, started working with her in September. And by December, she had made as much money as January through up to September.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, this is crazy. The money is just rolling in and I'm working less.
Yes.
Right?
That's the best. Like the more I rest, the more I make.
Yeah.
Yes. The more I play, the more I earn.
Mhm.
You know,
That's
these
it.
kinds of beliefs instead of struggle, what I call the addiction to struggle. People get addicted. We all get addicted to struggle. Like, I have to earn this. I have to work so hard. I have to work so many hours. I have to da. Yeah, well, that's just BS. It's a belief system.
Yes, but you're also correct in that it's an addiction, because
It
my
is.
title is reality interventionist because I deal with reality addiction. So
Mhm,
what happens is we're not technically addicted to struggle. We're
mhm.
addicted to the dopamine high after the struggle.
Mm,
So I just did all this and I accomplished it. Woo, that feels good. Except when you're struggling, it doesn't feel good at all. But your body doesn't care. It's looking for the chemical payoff at the end. Right?
interesting.
So and this is like everything that's going on is an addiction. So like your money situation, you're not making a lot of money, and then you see like a rich person screw over a bunch of poor people. Now, in your mind, you go, "There's no way I can be like that because I don't have the money." Right? Now, you're going to consciously have different things like I'll never be like that, and I hate those people. I never want to be like them. Unconsciously, it's like I'm not like them, so you get a hit of dopamine, right? Um, People are complaining about how much taxes they pay, and you don't have to pay that much tax. You get a hit another hit of dopamine. People ask you to go someplace and you don't want to go, but now you've got the excuse, I'm sorry, I can't afford it. You get another hit of dopamine because you're not lying to them, right? You don't
Mm.
feel guilty for lying. And so you get these little dopamine hits every time not having money is justified in your life. So you become addicted. And then you have something like you have a rough month, but you manage to pay off your bills at the end of the month. And you didn't think you were going to. This was like a really bad month. Except when you do it, now you don't only get hit with dopamine, you get hit with adrenaline, you get some oxytocin, and your whole body goes, wow,
Mm.
that felt good. Let's do it again. And so now
Mm.
you unconsciously make a month of struggle to just pay your bills at the end, and you do it over and over and over to get your fix at the end. Never mind that the fix only lasts a few minutes at the end of the month, and you've gone through 30 days of hell. Your body wants its fix.
Mm.
And it gets worse because eventually your body can't get a big enough fix there. It builds up tolerance like any drug addiction. So it says, okay, what else can we throw into the mix? Can we make life worse through the month? Can we throw an illness in there? Can we throw family problems in there? What can we do to increase the struggle so we can have the bigger payoff at the end of the
Mm.
month? It is a physical addiction.
Interesting. Yes, physical and emotional,
And emotion, yeah.
intellectual, everything,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, look at me. I solved all these problems. I'm so great."
Yeah.
You know? "Wow, I'm so powerful." Whatever the
Yeah.
thought may be as a result of that. So, yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
And, so I'm thinking, and I'm thinking this is probably something that those of you listening are thinking as well, what do we substitute instead?
That's the
Instead
key.
of that hit of, "Oh god, look at this." And the other thing I'm thinking too before you answer that is we get attention, don't we?
Yes.
There's something to talk about at the water cooler, so to speak.
Yep.
Somebody or something to talk about. "Oh, can you believe what happened?" And people like it, the soap opera,
Mhm.
right? People
Yeah.
like the soap opera.
There's two aspects to that. Number one is if people see you struggling and they see you working hard and you're still not getting there, you can get the sympathy, which feels like love, which is another hit.
Mhm.
So you get
Yeah.
that. The other thing is, and just like you talked about the word water cooler, I remember when I was in corporate, we were in the lunchroom talking, and it became a who can top who with the adversity that's going on in their lives. Oh, you think that's bad? This is what happened to me. Oh, you think that's bad? And so now you're unconsciously trying to win this game. You're going back into your life to find out what can I bring to lunch tomorrow that's even worse so I can top the people that are there.
Let me bring in a nice toasted alligator sandwich and or my roadkill cafe dessert, whatever. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Huh. Isn't that powerful?
It's very powerful.
Love that.
The the good news and bad news about this, like the bad news is it's not like you can break out of addiction. Your body wants to be addicted. The good news is you can choose the addiction. So I used to be addicted to struggle, and people would be like, Shiraz, we see you
Mhm.
trying so hard, and look what's going on. And I made the decision, no, you know what? I'm going to be addicted to success. I can get that love from people celebrating my success just as easily I can get it for struggling through my failure. And
Mhm.
when I made that decision, reality started to change around me. And I started having more and more success. And now I get to celebrate more and more and feed that addiction.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the thing is,
Beautiful.
I hang out with other people that have that same addiction. So we're always encouraging each other, celebrating each other, supporting each other.
Mhm.
And it all like now we're a bunch of success addicts, basically, is what we've become.
It's a success addict 12-step group. Hi, I'm Barnsley and I'm successful.
Hi, Barnsley.
Thanks, Barnsley. I'm Shiraz and I'm successful. I'm kick ass. I love that. That's hilarious. Like a success 12 step. This would be a great SNL skit, wouldn't it, Shiraz? It would be great. Everybody sits down and tries to top each other's success stories. You know? All right. I love that. I think, yes, and we can get the dopamine, we can get the attention, we can get the support, we can get
Mhm.
all those things that we
Yep.
were getting another way through this. Now, I think too, Shiraz, I know for myself, I have been doing some pretty radical self-care, right? Ever
Cool.
since COVID, I have been doing really radical self-care. And so what that means is, I started out with doing 2 self-care appointments every week, and then it became more.
Mm,
So it would be acupuncture, facials, massage, there's a whole variety of things. And then
mm,
I can also use my Beamer at home. I have the Beamer machine. I use it every day. And then I have the hydrotherapy machine, so I can go in there and use that. And sometime our mutual friend Liz Bull comes over and we do a session trade. She gets her hydrotherapy and she does woo woo on me. So there are all sorts of ways that I get self-care. And it was just like I decided, the more I develop myself, and this is something I've heard Tony Robbins and so many luminaries say, the more I develop myself and the kinder I am to myself, the more success I have.
yes.
The more, and that's what I mean by the more I rest, the more I earn. The
Mm,
more I play, the more vacations I take, the more trips I take, the more I earn. The more time off I take, the more I earn. These kinds of belief systems, they give you a dopamine hit
yeah.
and they result in more ease. And
Yeah.
so we can eventually change the neural pathways that have been stuck in that proverbial rut of poop, like cow poop. You just like stepped and you're stuck in a rut, or you've stepped in cow poop. We can suddenly decide, it's actually a lot more fun to walk barefoot through a gorgeous, meadow with flowers and sunshine than it is to walk through cow patties, you know?
Yes.
And our thoughts, who's responsible? We are.
Mhm.
We're responsible.
You're
But I love
responsible.
that you point out to people, you help uncover the belief systems that are there that are detrimental. I do this too in a different way in my Make It Happen mastermind.
Mm,
Where it's like, yeah, why do you believe you can only make 5,000 a month or 2,000? Or, I have people who've come to me and they were making 500 a month, and then we get them up to 20K a month. It's super exciting, and they could go beyond that if they wanted.
that's it. Yeah. It's
So
and
what have
it's
been your hardest struggle, Shiraz? You shared because I this in this show we kind of pull back the proverbial red curtain too. We roll out the red carpet, but we pull back the red curtain to show some of the failures we've had.
yeah.
And I've shared with people over and over, I certainly failed it in the sense that it took me over a decade to get into 6 figures. But when I got there, I kept growing. But it took me a longer time. And so much of my mission is stopping that for other people, helping
Mm.
them get there a lot faster and easier with fun. So, what have been some of your big struggles aside from the rheumatoid arthritis, which is huge, but that when you shifted it, and there's only one letter difference between shit and shift, when you shifted it, then suddenly you said, wow, look what's showing up in my life now.
One of the things was my income. Now,
Hmm.
income was not bad. It was $100,000 a year.
Hmm.
Except when I got out of college, got to work very, very quickly, I went to $100,000 a year, and then it just stopped. Just stayed steady at $100,000
Hmm.
a year. And I'm like, I'd like to make more at some point. Like, why does it just stay right there?
Like
Yep.
flat nine.
And eventually I figured out a way to make $1 million.
Hmm.
Not only did I figure out how to do it, because it was 2008, 2009, the iPhone had just come out, the App Store was coming out, apps were becoming a big thing. And I was in software design, right? So I figured out an app that we could use for principles that people like Bob Proctor, John Assaraf, Joe Dispenza,
Hmm.
all could use, because
Yeah.
in that form, they weren't even there yet. They weren't even thinking about that yet.
Yeah.
And I lived in Toronto. Bob Proctor's in Toronto. I managed to get a meeting with him in his house
Awesome.
to discuss this thing, and he didn't really get it. Right. But he was interested in what I had to say, what I had to do. So we started talking about how we can work together. I got on a conference call with John Assaraf and started talking to him about working together, and several other people. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. There's no way I'm not going to make $1 million. So I had quit my job so I could focus fully on this. And over the next 2 years, I made $0 a year. And it was just crazy. So the deals just didn't go anywhere. I start, and I'm thinking they're going to. I'm working, doing everything I can. I'm developing the software, trying to show it to them. Like this is amazing. You're going to love this, and it's just not going anywhere. And I'm still spending like I'm about to make $1 million. So savings are gone, retirement savings are gone, like, credit cards are maxed. I'm
Wow.
80,000 in the hole. And finally, I had to let it all go. And when I let it all go, my income went to $100,000 a year and stayed steady again.
Set point.
Yeah.
It's a set
So
point, just like weight,
it's a
just like
set
everything
point.
else. The set point.
See, but here's the thing. I learned that when you have a set point, that when you try to go higher, something comes up and pulls you down to your set point. If you go lower, something comes and pulls you up to your set point.
Yep.
Why
It's
the
like
hell
cruise
am I?
control.
Yeah. Why am I at zero then? Why am I not staying at 100 and just not going higher? So I had to look at that. So I got a coach and I said, okay, here's what happened. I don't want this to ever happen again. What's going on? So we looked, and when I was a teenager, my friends, my family, on multiple occasions, Shiraz, you're really intelligent. You're really creative. We have no doubt you're going to be making millions of dollars. You're going to have that house on the beach. You're going to be traveling the world. It's going to be amazing. And then we get to come hang out with you at your house and travel with you. It's going to be a big party. It's going to be a lot of fun. And they're like, this is going to be amazing. And I'm thinking, they're all going to leech off me. Oh, hell no.
You're like, I don't want them all there. Are you kidding? I'm gonna make $5 an hour so that I don't have them taking advantage of me. Yes.
So I was lucky because my mind figured out $100,000 is enough that I can live comfortably, but they can't all descend on me,
Oh wow.
right? But when I had the way to get to $1 million, my mind's get as far away from that as possible. And that's
Mhm.
one thing I'd never learned, never found out from any of the coaches, that will
Mm.
happen, that you will push yourself away from the goal. And then that made everything clear for a bunch of people, because I remember a couple of my
Yep.
clients, they were about to launch a business and they would always get sick just before the launch of the business. Right? Like there were
Yeah.
all these things that seemed like circumstance, seemed like life, right?
Right.
And it's all
Seemed
pushing away.
external.
Yes.
Seemed external. And I know there's somebody here thinking, well, what do you mean? You mean that I caused my disease or I caused my cancer? Okay, I'm not saying that, and I don't think Shiraz is saying that either, but it is a huge contributing factor. All right, it is a huge contributing factor, your belief system. And we're telling that body of ours,
Yeah.
hey, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you get younger every day. Or we're telling that body of ours, oh my God, look at you, you're getting old, you're getting wrinkly, you're getting this, you're getting that. And if we begin to believe that, then absolutely the body's going to break down,
Yeah.
because thought precedes reality, right? The
Yes.
thought precedes reality. I was just saying, this is great, Shiraz, because I was just saying to somebody the other day, I said, or actually it was in a live, I said, if you want to know the results you're having in your life right now, just go back. I mean, in your business right now, just go back 6 months, for instance, and ask yourself, what seeds was I sowing then? And also, what was I thinking? What was I thinking in my mind? What thoughts was I sowing? And if you really want to understand your results right now in your life, go back 5 years. What were you focused on? What were you planting? And this is the harvest now. So if it's not a harvest we want, then we gotta start sowing different seeds.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you bring up the thing about the illness, external things can cause an illness. Internal causes you to keep the illness.
Powerful.
I
Yes.
was talking to someone, she had cancer, and we were trying to figure out how to get her out of it because the conventional
Yep.
stuff just wasn't working.
Right.
And then I asked the question, I said, what if the cancer was gone tomorrow and you can go back to work? And she looked at me and she goes, I would rather die than go back to that job. And I'm like, well, now we know why you have cancer. You've just stated it. And she could have said, I would rather, be sick until my retirement comes up. So now I could just live off my pension. Because no, I'd rather die than go back to that job. Like, your words have power. They're revealing what's going on in your subconscious. Even if you think you're just saying cliches, you're running that programming at the back of your mind. So if you're
Mm,
saying things like you have to work hard to succeed, then you're not letting yourself create easy ways to succeed. If you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, I'm sorry, you're just damned. However, if the world is your oyster, you're always going to find pearls.
yeah. Mm,
So one of my mantras is everything's always working out for me. And every time something happens and it works out for me, I'm like, because everything always works out for me. And
mhm,
every time something doesn't work out for me, I'm like, it's okay, because it'll work out, because everything always works out for me. So I'm
mhm.
anchoring the evidence of the good stuff and dismissing the evidence of the bad stuff, where most people are anchoring the evidence of the bad stuff and dismissing the evidence of the good stuff.
Nice. Okay, now it's making me think about a situation. Okay, so I had this tenant in this, and I'd had long-term tenants, and this tenant was a real pain. Let's just put it that way, and was smoking in the place where it was very clear no smoking. It was all over the lease. None at all of anything, anytime. Right? Not even candles. And this person, I ended up having to evict them, and they pretended they didn't know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you'll love this, Shiraz. She left all her crap, and the place was a wreck. When I
Mm.
walked in there, I almost, I was just devastated, because I had just done new floors, had new painting done. I had done all these repairs. I had worked hard myself,
Yeah.
and it was a mess. Well, with the help of some friends and some people I hired, and my godson and my daughter, we took out 45 bags of trash. And I said, okay, source, show me how this is a good thing, because I know it's a good thing. First of all, I know how to do an eviction now, and that's a good thing to know. And I can help other people with that for real. It's a good
Yeah.
thing to know how to do it. It's
Yeah.
because it's pretty complex, and you have to wait this certain amount of days. And if you mess any of that up, you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And you're going to turn it into a pretty long process. And the whole time you're not going to be being paid, right? So this is good that I know how to do that. I know exactly how to do that. There's no, if it ever happens again, I'll be ready. And then I realized, I said, you know what? I can take some of this stuff here. I can give a lot of it away to people who need it. And I can take some of this furniture she left here. It's not so bad. And I'm really artsy and good at this because my mother was an interior designer. I can furnish this place. And then I can have healthcare professionals who come in at Duke, for Duke Hospital or Durham Regional or even UNC Hospital, and they can be here for longer term rentals, because I don't want to spend so much work having to get the cleaning person out there and having to go in and inspect. I don't want to do all that. I really don't. I want it to be easy. And so what I did is worked with folks for 3 weeks, and I ended up furnishing that place. I bought maybe $400 worth of stuff on Facebook that I found very carefully, and it is gorgeous. And started renting it on Airbnb for much more than it would rent as just a place, with a long-term lease. So that was something that, I asked myself that question, how can this be a great thing? How can this work for my good? And that was the answer. So we have to get creative. We have to be open to possibilities that are outside of our line of vision, perhaps, at that
Absolutely.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when I walked in, I thought, oh God, drug paraphernalia stuff everywhere, bottles everywhere, shit everywhere. And I got to clean all this up. I was not happy. And then I got to let go of that and realize that there was a pearl inside this nasty, smelly clam of a place, you know?
Yep. And it's always going to be that attitude in the way you look at it, because some people will be like just frustrated, angry, and talking about it. And I don't know if you heard that expression. Did you have a bad day, or did you have a bad 5 minutes that you milked all day?
I haven't heard that, but that's hilarious. Yes. That's
That's it.
great.
Because I remember at work, some
Yeah.
guy, I met him when we were starting the day at work, and he was like, he got caught off in traffic, and he was bitching about this guy cutting off in traffic, and he got
Yeah.
delayed, and he thought he was going to be late for work, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh man, sorry, man. I'm sorry that happened to you. Later on, I saw him telling that story to someone else. That afternoon, I saw him telling that story to
Oh, of
someone else.
course.
I'm like, it the whole day. Whoever he could find, he had to tell about his
Yeah,
lots
he
of
told him
traffic.
about the traffic. See, here's the great thing is, it is really what life is, nothing is personal here. Nothing that happens is personal. It's very rare that it would be personal. Um, in life, it's just a neutral event. There's traffic, or someone leaves us, they die, or they leave, or whatever.
Mhm.
Usually there's nothing personal about it, but we make it mean something personal. We turn it into a story that, oh my God, can you believe what happened? You know, oh my God. Uh, can you believe what so and so did? Um, and we all do. I think we all do it. I tend to catch myself, but I think we all do it at some time or another. And it's very important to be vigilant with ourselves.
Yeah. I recommend to everyone to be the amused observer.
Hmm. I
Right?
told you I was bemused by the stuff that was happening this afternoon. You know, I just really was looking at it thinking, oh wow, look at this. Oh wow, this is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Life is
I was wondering
short.
if we were
What
going to
kind of
reschedule this.
hormones do you want in your body?
I was laughing when you sent me the voice thing that the storm was there and the traffic was there. I'm like, oh my gosh, how many times are we going to reschedule this?
It was crazy. I told you. Wait, because we had to reschedule like 2 or 3 times. I don't even know how many times. I was looking at this thing, "Okay, well, what's this about?" And then I'm driving by these people, and it's like, "Oh my god, that car is totaled." But, I mean, I'm sorry for that person. It didn't look like anyone was hurt. There wasn't an an ambulance
And
there.
I'm just,
But,
yeah,
these are really, if I may say so, they're high level problems in a sense, Shiraz. Like,
mm,
look, if I were in Guatemala, just to have a car, 1 out of 10 people have a car, right?
mm,
And here I am in the United States, and I'm gonna complain about traffic. I have a car. I have
yeah,
a great car. What are we grateful for, and what are we not grateful for? And of course, gratitude is one of the highest vibrations we can
yes,
have. So is hope, so is love, so is joy. These are great high level vibrations, just like guilt and shame and hatred are low, 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 low on the limbo, low down. So
yeah,
where do I want my hormones to go? I think everybody consider that. When you get in a tizzy, you get your panties in a wad, as we say here in the South. When you get your panties in a wad, ask yourself, well, what's the payoff? What am I getting here? What am I creating out of this? And are you being that guy who tells everybody about the traffic? The
yeah,
person who flipped him off in the car next to him.
yeah. Or you want to be that person that talks about all the cool things that are happening. Right?
Exactly.
You want to be uplifting the people around you. And it's funny because I remember there was a time in when COVID was on
Mhm,
that I was at a virtual coffee that we did every Friday morning. And I arrived, and there was a bunch of people, and it was a spiritual thing. So people
mhm,
that all spiritual, doing different modalities and stuff. And they were all talking about how because of COVID, everyone's angry, right? And you go to the supermarket, and everyone's like keeping their distance, but it's more of like, stay the hell away from me. And they just
mhm.
all seem frustrated, and you can't, like even if they're smiling, you can't like. It's not that you can't tell if they're smiling because you can see the face around the mask smile, but there's no smiles. Everyone's just not there. And I'm like, this is a group of spiritual people. Why are we not having an uplifting talk? Everyone's just bitching. And so, and then right after that, and I'm in the same area as them. We just couldn't see each other physically. And I
Mhm.
went to the grocery store, and I went to the grocery store, and I was saying hi to people, and they were smiling. We were having a good time, and I'm like, they're living in a completely different reality in the same area as me,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Because what we have a filter for, it's that reticular activating system. Whatever we want to notice, we're going to notice.
Yeah.
So with the reticular activating system, you decide to buy a certain kind of car, and suddenly you see that car everywhere. Why? Because it's in your mind. It's something
Mm,
you're focused on. So whatever we choose to focus on, we're going to find evidence and try to be right about it. So if we focus on, oh, all women are cheaters, or all men are cheaters, or whatever we choose to focus on, we're going to find evidence of that.
Yes.
And want to be right about it. And that's sad when what we want to be right about is a really miserable reality.
And this is also like why it's so important with that phrase, you're the average of the 5 closest people to you.
Yes.
How positive and how successful are those people for you?
Right.
Because you need to bring more successful people into the mix.
That's right. People who will take themselves on, and people who will take us on too. That's the other thing, and just say, hey, well, that's interesting. What about this? Have you thought about the good that can come out of this?
Yeah.
And it is very easy. It can be very easy to go into an unconscious negative spiral, as they call it in positive psychology, that downward spiral. You have a thought, and then they call it ants, automatic negative thoughts. And then you have another, and you have another. And then suddenly you find you started with, oh, it's a really rainy day. And you ended up with, I should just die, or I should just go to sleep and never wake up. It's very easy to get started on something that we need to pause and stop it. In other words, stop those automatic default places that we go.
Yeah. And it's actually in one of my programs, $1 Million Impact Makers, we were doing our mastermind on Wednesday. And one of the women that hasn't shown up for a while was there. And I had to scold her. So, because she said, look, I've been having a lot of stuff going on in my life right now. Right? Her son's in the middle of divorce. There's some issues with the house, like the whole thing's going on. And she said, and I've been depressed, and I didn't want to bring that to the group. And I said, this group uplifts the people in the group. When you're down, that's the most important time to come out so we can lift you up. So stop disappearing when things go wrong. And she's like, what? I'm like, this isn't just about business. This is about us supporting each other, about us loving each other. And she's like, oh, but I don't want to be a downer. I'm like, if someone else was in that position, would you say, don't come to the group? And she's like, oh, shit.
And how many people might be thinking some of the things she's just going to express, and they're not saying it, but when she does it and says, I've been feeling lonely, or I've been feeling whatever, then suddenly everybody can say, oh yeah, I was feeling a little bit of that too. And yeah, I need to let that go. It gives people permission to be real and to be human. We're human, and so we're gonna fuck up. That's the way I see it, Shiraz. We're gonna fuck up. We're gonna fuck up. We're gonna majorly fuck up sometimes. But the thing that we can do is always we can be responsible and ask, well, how could I have that be different next time? What did I learn? How can I make this into something positive? What amends do I need to make? We can, there's so much that we can do, that we do have control over.
Yeah.
But if we are basically seeing ourselves as a victim, then there's no place for change. No place for change. We believe we're a victim of circumstances, the externals in our world, or a person, or a job, or even a program. People sometimes try to be victims of the programs they're in. Oh my God, she's so intense. Or, oh my God, this program is so comprehensive. It's too much. People try to make themselves victims, and there's no power in that whatsoever. None at all.
And in her case, as everything you're saying is true, I don't think it was being a victim. It's, I have to make sure I'm not a burden on others.
Right. That's what I heard there. Yeah, I agree with you. As she didn't want to, she felt like she would kind of sully the energy in that case.
So the irony, the irony there on, I'm joining a group program for support in my success, and when I'm not having success, I'm not going to go to the program.
Right.
But
it is easy to do, right? And it is easy thing to do to sometimes say, oh,
Yeah.
right. Because I can always tell, and I just tell people, look, if I notice that you stop coming for your individual coaching, or you stop being a demand for it, you stop asking for it, and you miss some of our group power hours, I know you're on the verge of quitting this
Yeah.
program, i.e., quitting your vision of your business, your
Yes.
purposeful, profitable, passionate livelihood. And so I'm just going to call it out right now that that's where you are. And
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, every time there's a breakdown, we have an opportunity for breakthrough.
Yes.
And if you stick it out, it's going to shift. It must.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I remind people of constantly is like those big breakdowns are often right before the big breakthroughs, because same
Yep.
thing with you, the $1 million. You're being pushed away from the thing you want. So that breakdown, if you can get through it, you'll come back up and get to that place. The first time through, I never did that. I just gave up, came back to that spot. Once we cleared that, I was on my track to $1 million again, and there was another part where it was going down. I'm like, no, 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 we've been through this. We're going to clear it, and then went up to the $1 million in sales.
Love that. Beautiful. Well, that's a good place for us. I mean, you and I could talk forever, Shiraz. I have no doubt about that. We could do like a marathon bold badass business show. Everybody just bring your sleeping bags and some hot cocoa, and we'll just stay on here for days. But I know you and I can really gab about
Mhm.
all this stuff, and it's important, because if we don't have a mindset, if we don't have emotional regulation, if we don't have this awareness, then we can just be wafted off by any of society's crappy shitty scripts, as I call them.
Yeah.
There's shitty scripts everywhere. Those cow patties are, you walk right out your door and there's a cow patty if you want it. There's stuff for you to step in that society has created. And, ideas like you have to have this, and you have to be this way, and you have to whatever. You have to be a certain gender, whatever, any of these ideas that are limiting, society has scripted. And so there's tons of landmines for us. So important for us to be able to see where they are in our lives. And as you say, become vigilant, so that once you clear it, comes back, you clear another level of it, comes back,
Yep.
you clear another level.
That's it.
And it doesn't usually happen in one time for those big, big issues. It usually is something we have to do repeatedly,
It is.
you
And
know?
that's it. Because of the addiction, because of the wiring of the brain, you're
Mhm.
going to try and go back to where your body's used to, but you just have to create the new addiction and then break free of that and create the new addiction and just keep going in your life. And you're absolutely right. Like, you can easily get sucked in because people prefer not to think,
Mhm.
right? And George Bernard Shaw said 2% of the people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. Right?
So
Because
95% are dumbasses.
Well, yeah, because mental activity does not constitute real thought. You're just
Right.
going off pre-programmed
Yeah.
routines that are running in your brain.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That makes me think about Samuel Beckett. Now, here we could go off on that too. One of the things I loved about Beckett as a playwright is he always had everybody do these weird, repetitive things.
Mhm.
And, think about Happy Days or No Exit, some of his best works, Waiting for Godot. They're just doing the same thing over and over. And that's
Mm.
kind of how we are in life until we have some level of awareness,
Yes.
to question and say, well, why do I drive that way there? Or why do I, when this happens, why do I begin to think this about me?
Yep.
Why am I making it mean something that doesn't support me? So that being said, I know that you have something wonderful to offer everybody. And those of you listening, if you've listened before, we have something super cool on Bold Badass Business. Oh, yes, we have the freebie vault. Woohoo! And the crowd goes wild. Yeah. All right, the freebie vault. When you go to the freebie vault, you get the gifts of all the guests who have been on here, you all, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts, checklists, free sessions, e-courses, programs, special events, all sorts of stuff on there, ebooks, we just cheat sheets, just go, and video courses, whatever. There's tons of stuff. It's at bit.ly/free from Dr. B. DRB. I made it rhyme. bit.ly/free from Dr. B. And in that vault, we are also going to include a gift from Shiraz. So Shiraz, would you tell us what will they get from your gift and what is it?
So in order to rewire your neural pathways to have the thoughts you want to think rather than the ones that just show up because that's what you've been programmed to think, you have to learn to hold a thought and the corresponding emotion for 30 seconds or more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most people don't know this. The problem is most people can hold a thought for about 7 seconds or less, which is about the same as a goldfish. Right?
Same as a goldfish?
Same as a goldfish. Right? Right? And YouTube gets this. When you see the commercials and they got that 5-second timer going down,
yes,
they know, like, if you're advertising it, you know you've got 5 seconds to grab someone's attention or it's gone because they're off to something else. Right? So that's because that's how most people are wired. You want to be wired to hold these thoughts for longer periods of time, because when you're holding a thought for a longer period of time, it starts to rewire your neural pathways. So holding a thought that I am a confident person, I am successful, I things go my way, holding those thoughts, you have to do it long periods of time. I've created a series of audios that train your brain to hold thoughts for longer than 30 seconds. And some of them are only like 2 minutes long because we're just trying to break the 30-second mark. And they can be meditations, but they don't have to be, because some of them are focused on sound. So you can be out for a walk and you follow the instructions and you're focusing on a specific sound and holding on to that sound for a period of time. Right? Some deal with touch. So you could do it while you are holding something or doing the dishes, or some are just breathing. And so they're called Stop Thinking Like a Goldfish audios.
That's hilarious.
So
I love that. That's fun.
There are side effects, which I have to warn you about. Number one is you will be calmer in chaotic situations. And number two is that people tend to start being drawn to you because of the energy you get into when you're able to do this. So if you want more clients and you want people to feel safe around you, then that's what's going to happen with the audience. If you don't want that, don't listen to the audience.
Yeah, if you don't want that, go jump in the goldfish bowl and just,
Okay.
And
there's one other thing I have to make sure people get. If you download it and put it on your hard drive but don't listen to it, it doesn't work. It's not effective that way.
Are you serious?
Serious.
It won't work if you just download it. If you take notes at that event and you never implement, it's not going to work. What are you talking about?
It's amazing.
It is crazy. You know what? I've got some people to introduce you to, Shiraz. We'll talk about that when we get off the air, because what you're saying, I know I've got some folks who would be so interested in it. And I didn't realize you had that software background, the design of the apps. I did not realize that.
Yeah. I used to work for companies like Oracle, Accenture, the government of Australia.
All right, so you all make note of that, because now, of course, all the big people are doing apps, right? So you got Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins with an app. You've got Brendan Burchard with an app. You've got apps for this and apps for that. You got an app for anything these days. But, that is a really innovative way to stay in touch with your tribe, your prospects, and your clients. It's a really innovative way to do that. And, Shiraz can help you, perhaps give you a little bit, not just with the energetic magic, but also help you out a little bit with that, conceiving of how you might use that. Well, Shiraz, this has been fantastic. I love it. I love what we've talked about. I think that this is one of those episodes that people will want to listen to. There's a lot of gems in here, and you all listen to it again and again and take it in, because this life is short. And if you want to be a badass, you want to be in control of your own emotions and of where you put your energy and how you use your thought. your thoughts and your heart. How are you using them? Because the choice is up to you when you become aware. Otherwise, you're just basically wafted around by whatever thing is happening in society. And
Yes.
isn't that a sad way to use your life, this precious life that you've been given?
Mhm.
So I know those of you who are here, even if you're not feeling like a badass right now in your business, even if there have been some things that have been tumultuous recently in your life, well, you've got some ways to rethink those now and ask, how are they working for my good, for sure. But also, I know that you're a badass because you're here, you're tuning in, you are improving yourself. And this is going to bring untold riches your way. So tune in next week, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific on Bold Badass Business. And I want to just thank you again, Shiraz, for being here and giving us so much to think about.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. Ciao, ciao, all. Be bad, be gold, be good.